Let's see here. How's everybody doing? Mystery Snail Guardians, I'm promoting your viral rise to infamy, I hope, with the hashtag I am a snail, leading up to the grand video release. I haven't eaten all day, so I'm going to eat cheese. Do you guys call these cheese sticks or mozzarella sticks? Because I think of those as the baked ones. Do you call it string cheese? You call it mozzarella sticks, mozzarella string cheese. I'm eating it like an animal though, and I apologize, but I needed to eat something and I just pulled in the house. So how's everybody doing? Holy cow, there's a lot of you here. Early. Aquaballs, what's up? Average Fish Keeper, John Monroe, Brian, what's going on, man? You're still in that same shirt. Sure am. When did I stream? 2 days ago? Yeah, I haven't changed my shirt in 2 days. If you're thinking of fishery, that's a different tie-dye. I have about 15. So, Giuseppe, what's going on? Davo, for sure. Lindsay Adams, hello. You can tell my wife is not here. Yeah, she just got back. I just picked her up last night. But yes, you can definitely tell my wife has not been here. You know how you can tell? Because everything on the floor is a mess. Blankets and microscopes and Dr. Pepper. I cleaned up most of the trash, but all the scientific stuff is still laying all over the living room, which I'm going to get chewed out for tonight, except she's only coming home for an hour to change clothes and then going to a concert. So I'm kind of in the clear to clean that up. Mick, if you ever change water very often, you will perhaps never get the result of induced spawning trigger, since water will then always be top quality, no change. Science! Mick, you inspired me, that's for sure. Average Fish Keeper, that's you when your wife's gone also. Cool. I made a little bowl for the Pack a Bowl contest also. I have my big jar bowl here, and I needed to get motivated, but in the meantime I decided to, might be too foggy still, but I decided to set up like a miniature little Arches National Park or something, with all these stones that are pretty long, and then some miniature Mayaca, red Mayaca, and then there's some Sawassertong in the back for more filtration. There's scattered rocks, and then I'll probably be doing some sort of Nymphea minutia behind all that kind of adds shade so it can stay in the window and not be overrun with algae. That's the plan. So, how is everybody doing? Aquatic Nest, what's up? Lydia Lobb, what's up? Pansy American, what's up? Jimmy James, what's up? Let's see here. Can we get live chat on? Oh, that's so much better. So much better. So much better. So many things to research. I love it. Sandio, man, I just heard gas could go up to $10 in the state of Washington. How much is gas now? I've seen it hit for premium like 7, but it's right around 560 right now, 559 or something like that. Up to 6.99 at some, like, in the city gas stations, like right in downtown. It's like 6.29 or so. But yeah, it's bad. I know LA has it bad too. The really crappy part is the state of Washington has 2 pipelines, one from Alaska, and also it has 3 huge oil refineries that refine for like 5 states. So it's ridiculous. Like BP, Chevron, and what's the other one? Oh, it's like a United Gas or something like that. It's like a whole conglomerate thing. 629 is the best we can do right now in LA. Ugh, rough. Yeah. Down in Southern California. The oil companies want us to believe all the oil comes from Russia. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, LA has a bunch of. You guys have like something like 2,000 active oil rigs in city limits. That's why Los Angeles was founded on oil. I mean, that's what made it explode. It's crazy population wise. Ah, hey, look, there's an ad for Jurassic Park. The archaeologist in me is a little sad, is a little excited. We'll see how it goes. Um, so, I got an email from Mick the other night saying, what plays a bigger role in spawning? Is it going to be like in triggering spawning? Is it going to be water chemistry and conductivity and KH and chemistry and TDS, water temperature? And somebody was of the opinion it was pretty much all water temperature. And so that brought up an interesting question because in my mind there are really about five things that spur on spawning fish. And I'd love to hear if you guys agree with me when I list these out. So let's kick off the talk today with this. And then later, actually, Alyssa Bentley is going to be coming by, and I'm going to be getting, I think, 5 baby bristlenose plecos, three, 2 or 3 little elosoma, because mine are all males, so she's going to try to get me some females, elosoma gilberti, and then what was the other thing she was going to bring over? I think that was it actually. I'm giving her the macrostoma, the 3 macrostoma bettas that I've been growing out for the last 6 months, and I know those retail for like up to $200 as adults. And then she's got true Snow White plecos, which are nice, like the platinum kind with the blue eyes that are really solid white, and they're really beautiful. So she's got some that are about an inch and a half to 2 inches long, and I'm gonna trade her for 5 or 6 of those for the others. And I just want to give them to a good home too. So I think it'll work out as a good trade for both of us for sure. So let's see here. Ryan Hare, hello. Jimmy James, what's up? I hope you can make it to Interzoo. Vazaroth, what's up? You almost thought that was mug root beer? Ah, no, no, no. Tux, welcome. 3G, welcome. And Coradulin works. Coradulin works. Hello, new favorite YouTuber. Well, thank you so very much. Give me money. That's half true. No, well, I'm so glad that you made a live stream then. Welcome aboard, Credulin Works. Credulin Works. Average fish keeper. Oh, you need some Gilbert Eye? Well, we're not that far away. We can do it. Oh, hey, it's Alyssa. What's up? How's it going? Oh, right. Scarlet Baddest Females. That's what she's hooking me up. How did I forget that? I thought I mentioned that right off the top. That is the bigger news than really the plecos. Although I'm really excited about the plecos too. They're really beautiful. She's got her and I feel like at auctions we always like go back and forth bidding on one another's whatever it is that we've acquired in the last 6 months or whatever. We then cross paths at some auction, and I'll get her shrimp and she'll get my shrimp, and by now we probably have like lines that have diverged 2 or 3 years of several different fish, which is kind of cool. Hey Shanna, what's up? Good to see you, Shanna. So the other thing that I was gonna mention real quick is that Dr. Anthony had something he wanted to say. Of course, he's always saying something. So what is it that you want to say, Dr. Anthony? I said that he could announce it on my stream. And I mean, he mentioned it before, but let's hear it again. the email. Come on, Doc. The email announcement that you made on Tuesday. Let's hear it again. So while I wait for that, I also have been talking with Ivan Mikolji and his sister again because we started that nonprofit, the Green Earth Alliance, and pretty exciting stuff. But we're um, working on a few ideas of basically doing some art auctions in person and things. He's also got some new connections with like Jeremy Wade from River Monsters and things like that. And so we really want to do something with that to help raise money for our nonprofit. But we're kind of holding off because one thing is we all have a lot going on, but two, Dr. Anthony and the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fish has a grand opening coming up, and they're also looking for internships and people that want to come down to Peru and hang out in the Amazon. Jeffrey, thank you so much for becoming a secret supporter. You could have just paid $1.99, but you've gone above and beyond, and I greatly appreciate that. Sincerely, I really do. So thank you. It really helps to have the members. I've been watching Aquarium co-op streams, and I got a free membership the other night on there, and I was like, "Holy cow! How does this work, though?" They test out things on his channel because it's a very like engaging, successful fish channel, and I was wondering though, like when they sign you up for that, do they just bounce you off there after 30 days, or does it keep billing the credit card that you've probably already signed up on YouTube and Google with, and if you don't like go there and stop it before the 30 days, you get charged. So I was kind of wondering about that. Maybe somebody knows. But let's get back to the topic at hand. Also, yes, the Zoom talk tomorrow that is going on that the Amazon Research Center and Dr. Anthony are putting on, which is talking with the experts. You need to, and he just put it in the chat that you need to register for that if you want to watch it, ask questions afterwards and so forth. But I highly recommend his series. He is one of the few YouTubers, and yeah, I'm calling you out, Doc. You're a YouTuber now. You're one of the few YouTubers that is also setting that standard of let's do the scientific method. Let's get experts. Let's get people who've spent their life on a subject to chime in on it, to teach us about it. And then we can make inferences and comments on how this applies to things we're witnessing. But our hobby has been based so much off conjecture for so long, and that's gotten us really far. It's also made a lot of amazing scientific discoveries. But I think it's really important as YouTubers, now that we're in a phase of the hobby where we can document the actual, I mean, it's so easy. You just need a phone or a cheap digital camera, and you can document it, or a laptop or a tablet or whatever. You can get a $29 flip phone if you really need to. But basically, and then go to Starbucks for the free Wi-Fi. But you can document what you're doing, and unlike in the past, where it was kind of like I get an inkling that fish spawn because of it's all about temperature. And then someone says that, and then someone trusts that person highly. So then everybody in their local club says, well, the master breeder in our club says it's all about temperature. So make it 62 degrees, and that's when they'll spawn, fish X. And then that gets passed on to different areas and things. And then you have someone from another club that's like, no, I heard it's all chemicals. So what I do is I drop a birth control pill in my tank, and the estrogen makes them go wild. By the way, please don't do that. I don't know the effects of that, but I'm pretty sure it's not a good one. Hey, Carodulin Works. Thank you so much for joining. Those memberships, they really do help, like I said, because, I end up getting somewhere about around $1 from each of the 199 memberships, and that is like basically money that's lined up for the next month. And so it helps me decide, like, can I buy a bunch of slides for the microscope? Can I buy a new microscope? You know, things like that. And as the channel is growing and things, there's some real possibilities. Like one thing I'd love to do, and I'm going to put Doc on the spot, which is I would love to take eDNA samples from a 1-year-old tank, you know, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a filterless, and then a high tech or whatever. I know that's 7 tests, but ideally that's what I'd love to see. If not just a one, like maybe a 6-month-old tank and say 3-year-old tank. But what I was doing in my last video, if you guys haven't seen it yet, I just posted a video that is looking at filter floss media under the microscope. And a lot of people think it's just for polishing on one hand, and it's not. It's for biological filtration also, because it gets clogged and then it becomes a surface. So you can wring it out and reuse it. Some people were commenting and messaging me not knowing that. So I just wanted to mention, hey Gloria, how's it going? Welcome. And Whippersnapper, hello, good to see you. Welcome. So the other thing is you can wring out that filter floss. I know it's dirt cheap, but you can still wring it out, and you don't want to twist it too hard, because when I look under the microscope, you can see that it actually frays the fibers and breaks them, and they kind of explode. They kind of explode like a steel cable if it was pulled apart with all the little wires that make up a steel, like a braided cable. And Reef and Sea Forever, hello. Freshwater Ichthyology, hello. Good to see you. Rebecca also, hey, Sketty Nona, hello. Also good to see you too. What I was saying is, yeah, so you can reuse filter floss. A lot of people thought you had to throw it out every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. And it's not the case. So the other thing is, though, once you get up to around, I've noticed around 3 or 4 washes where you wring it out and soak it in a bucket and then put it back in. What happens is it starts to get knotted, and while you might be maintaining filter area, you've clogged up flow so badly and also broken a lot of those little fibers that the plastic starts going into your tank. The acrylic of those little pieces of fiber break off and wash downstream into your tank. And not that I think that it bioaccumulates too much in the span we're talking about and in the type of life forms we're talking about in a standard home aquarium. But nevertheless, I'd rather not have microplastics in my tank. But yeah, I mean, I used that, and I just thought it was really interesting in that last video where I took the samples and also showed you guys what a jump started sample looked like. So to fill you in, if you didn't see the video too, I would like some people to watch that and tell me what they are taking away from those experiments, because on my side, the secret is I've been doing these experiments now. I did them about a year ago. Didn't record the results at all. Didn't write anything down. Just did it for my own curiosity. Took samples from all the tanks. Well, I also did the same about 3 months ago, and then again about 4 different times here with pretty much all my tanks. And so those results are what I got, and I tried to represent in that 20-minute video. I tried to keep it to 15, but I just couldn't make it. I tried to show 6 tanks, 5 of different years, all the way from a brand new filter with filter floss that was only 2 weeks old. And so I thought that was interesting, if nothing else. And the interesting part to me was that all of a sudden, at somewhere around 2 years, your filter, and this is your water, the debris that's actually coming through your tank. The filter floss is all brand new. So this is just polishing, supposedly. Well, what's apparent is that your well-cycled tanks have enough diversity of bacteria and enough microparticles of mold and suspended things that it actually clogs up and then grows on those fibers. Whereas in a newer tank, under a year old in most of my tank's cases, it doesn't do that. You get some algae winding around it, you get some cyanobacteria, and that's mostly it. You get a lot of little bugs and critters, not bugs really, but protists and paramecium, whatever they are that are in there, and maybe rotifers or something, but they're breaking down that algae and the biological debris that's in there, that's actually going back into your tank and causing high levels of organics. You can assume that if that's in the filter, it's probably in the whole tank. So it's kind of interesting that if you jumpstart a tank by using filter floss, one, you'd be better off using bio beads, and two, um, if you use the filter floss, you want to use it from a tank that's over 2 years old. That's really what the big takeaways were. Because if you use a tank that's under 2 years old, really all you're doing is inoculating it with a monoculture or maybe a trio culture of algae like blackbeard and filamentous and staghorn. And if you don't already have like 10 algae species living on that filter material, those that can grow will. So if you have any room in the biome for them to thrive, they're going to. And so the older the filter floss, the more times your tanks come into contact probably with algae of different kinds. And so if you watch that recent video, I'd like to hear what other takeaways you see, because it surprised me. I thought the oldest filter floss and the oldest filter media would be chock full of little bugs and things. But then I had to stop and think about it and think of the reason why. And it's because they're breaking down big chunks of organic matter in the first year living in that filter and in the flow. Whereas 4 or 5 years in, those big bugs are way more diverse on the plants, on the wood, under the substrate, in the rocks, and on the surface of the substrate and glass. But the archaea, the bacteria, the cyanobacteria, the algae, the aufux, all that stuff is what's really the complexity that I can't really tell you what's going on at 400 times magnification. Hopefully someday I'll be able to buy 1,000 times magnification scope, or someone will post a video of the same thing. And I'm trying to figure out a good way to also take a cross section of bio beads for a video soon to show you guys the how much of those aufux and surface area there really is on ceramics when you get to the microscopic level versus filter floss, filter pads, filter cartridges. They're not as good at growing those protein layers and biological aufuk layers. Now they are good at growing very rich in algae and algae and cyanobacteria layers. So I find that kind of interesting that that's what most people have been told to use by the big kits that come with your tanks, is to use those blade slide-in filters. Those are basically that same filter floss and some plastic structure. And so I think it's pretty interesting. Have you thought of dosing or doing like quadrants of filter floss to maybe like make an estimate? Quadrants. You mean like to take like a species count or something? Because what I did in the last video is I took I took a cubic centimeter and then I cut that down, and on the plate we examined basically a cubic millimeter of filter floss. Like that was the focus size at 400 times magnification, and we compared 6 different ones from different times, if you didn't see the video. So check it out. You'll probably like that video because I did that exact same thing. And it's called This Will Change the Way You Think About Filter Media and Jump Starting Your Tank, or something along those lines. When I labeled it 6 filter medias under the microscope, no one clicked on it. It was up for 4 hours and I had 112 views. So changed the title. which is a bummer that I can't just title things normally. But apparently, no one clicks on them. So let's talk about what I said we were going to talk about today, which is the thing that got sparked, and in my conversation, which was the Brian, you do watch, and I appreciate it, man. You're on it, like, man, just like bam. And Brian sent me a freaking computer, you guys. He sent me one of his laptops that's used for like computating crypto stuff or whatever. So it's got a good processor, and he has saved the day. I edited that video on there with my Adobe Cloud stuff. So freaking thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. It's gonna hold me over for a little while until I figure out. Well, until I'm in a place where I'm saving money again and so forth. But all right. So thank you, man. Seriously, that was awesome. Above and beyond. I'm thoughtful and gracious, or not gracious. I'm gracious. It was generous. For sure says, I need to put some of my saltwater media under my microscope. I would love to see that too. I'd love to compare it. So the other thing that I want to try to compute, if I could, is how many or how much filter capacity, like what should I say? Take a tank, literally pour ammonia, nitrates, and nitrites into a tank. Take the fish out, obviously. Take the plants out, and just let the bacteria handle it, and see like how much it can process. And then after that, try different filter medias and try no filtration and see how long it takes, with and without plants. That's the kind of stuff that I'd like to start actually testing. I feel like not many people are doing that, and Diane Wallstead did that kind of stuff in her book and looking at ecology, and a lot of people do that out in nature, but I'd love an appraisal of that for our aquariums. And I think the truth is that nobody wants to fund that research because the people that would fund it are big companies that want you to buy filter cartridges and want you to buy decorations and want you to buy tissue cultures and, yada, 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 yada. So, but it's something that I'd love to do. So, breeding. The subject came up, what's more important? Chemicals? Gotta love those chemicals. Or temperature. So here are the 5 variables in my mind, and I'd love to hear if you guys have another one. But so the one that gets overlooked the very most, in my opinion, in our hobby, is the fish need to see that there is food for their babies. And if that means they're a discus and they're feeding their slime coat, then that means that fish needs to have a well-balanced diet, mimicking what it would have as a well-balanced diet in nature. Omega-3s, omega-6s, anthocyanins, athataskins, antioxidants, you name it, all that stuff. Oh, thank you so much, Alyssa, you rock. And all those little things, paramecium, baby brine shrimp, a lot of the nanofish that I've spawned over the years will not spawn until that stuff is in the water. And I've tried all the other variables, and the more difficult species, it's almost as though they know I shouldn't exert the energy of making fertilizing eggs and the yolk and all the calories that go into that evolutionarily. I shouldn't waste my time if the babies can't thrive anyways. And the same would be true about TDS if it's not changing at all and things like that. And there are species that spawns with the wet season or something. But the very key thing is, I've noticed about a week, usually more like 2, the adults need to see that there's food that the babies will eat. And the babies may be eating food that's much smaller than the adults even bother eating. So that may mean that, hey, Brookley Bell, welcome. Glad to hear it. that you're here. And oh, Sweet Shot says, I got my firetail gudgeons to spawn with your advice. Basically, just feed them a bunch of live foods. Yeah, I mean, some fish, it's that easy. So glad to hear that. I've been getting a lot of people reporting back in the comments saying, like, thanks for the tip, it worked well. And that is, I mean, I can't ask for much more as a creator. It feels good to hear that making people's lives easier and more interesting, perhaps. But what is really interesting is, the fish seem to know my baby eats paramecium. My baby, or infusoria, whatever. My baby eats bloodworms. My baby eats whatever it may be. And that is so key in spawning things like little baddis. And a lot of people don't even know they're doing it because of when we looked at under the microscope in the last video, clearly, even at 400 times magnification, you could see all the little life forms. Smaller than that, the fish probably aren't eating them. But at that size, those teeny tiny baby fish that are almost larval, you can bet they're eating all those paramecium. You can bet they're eating little vinegar eels and detritus worms. They love that stuff. And it needs to be there. And so that means you need to have a full biome in many cases. So that is number 1 out of 5. And holy cow, look who entered the room. Mr. Moneybags. Thank you so much, Alexander Engelhart. So good to see you. I hope you're doing well, man. I really do appreciate it because I've been spending money on the microscope lately, and one, I want to go to the Triple Crown, but 2, I want to save up and actually buy a 1,000 times. Either get a lens that will work on this one if that's possible. It's a 1978 microscope. And I think when the light bulb burns out, I'm pretty much screwed, but I can use probably an LED flashlight or something instead. But thank you so very much, Alex. I really appreciate that, man. And again, I hope things are going well. I know you're always traveling, always juggling a million things, and it means a lot when you stop by and support the community like you do, man. Thanks, buddy. It means a lot. So, any case, so out of the 5 things, the other one that I think that is really important. And we'll talk about this real quick, which is oh, thanks. Clip-on book lights work well for the scope too. Glad to hear that. I'll try that. Like the IKEA one too was another one I was thinking about because it's really a crappy orange colored light. Like it's probably 3,000 to 4,000 Kelvin. Terrible lighting. So yeah. Hello, Valmoda. I'm doing good. So let's see here. Oh, for sure says Alex, give me lots of great advice. I have sold so many fish and shrimp. I got to give him a cut with my sub. Well, thank you so much. That means a lot, and I'm glad you can make some money. But average fish keeper asks, Alex, do you keep anything other than vinegar eel cultures as live cultures for those little fish? And the answer is yes. The answer is my wife wishes that were not the case. But I've kept grindle worms, white worms, Walther worms. Usually they're kind of the same thing, and they've just been given the different names. But they are technically different things. But in the hobby, they've kind of become the same thing, I think, just due to confusion. But I've tried those, and they're kind of stinky. The other thing I like to do is buy a few ounces of black worms and throw them in the bottom of the substrate of a tank. But you want a good trusted source for black worms. It's good to feed your fish for like a week if you know what farm you're getting the black worms from or who you got them from. Make sure there's no nematode or flatworm type parasites in there that are causing like wasting or any other issues in the fish, because it's common that happens. Like my quarries have gotten worms quite a few times from black worms that weren't clean. So I recommend that. But black worms, when you put them in the substrate, they're great. Now, the other thing that I always keep on hand is infusoria, and you can make it up pretty easily with just veggies or lettuce, broccoli, and water. Hey, honey.
Hi, honey.
What's that?
You got a box.
Oh! Whoa, that got here quick. So apparently I just got a box. I did see the post office man Mr. Postman, bum 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 bum, bring me a dream, bum 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 bum, blue dream shrimp from Grant Eater. So, yeah, he had me pay the shipping again, and he said if I showed y'all, I could tell you that Secret 10 is the discount, and any of the Garden of Eater shrimp, you get 10% off, and he's all homegrown shrimp in Florida. And he's actually made his lines from wild or, base colored cherry shrimp. Like all his oranges and yellows and stuff came from those base lines. He didn't buy the lines, he's made them over the last decade. So it's pretty cool. And his website is the Garden of Eder, EDER, .com, or shrimps.com, and it's abbreviated at the first part, so it's TGOE, shrimps.com. But if you just Google Grant or Eder Shrimps, EDER, you'll find him. He's got beautiful caradinas, some for as cheap as like $4. It's pretty crazy. Um, yeah, let's see here. So, let's see here. I'm just trying to read. Hey, Jess Schaefer, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, if you guys are talking to me, please try to put the at secret history. It really helps me like cut down on losing my train of thought and stuff. But these live streams are all about you guys, so we are gonna go wherever y'all want to go on a live stream. Now, again, thank you for the super chat or super sticker, Jess Schaefer. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, the little white worms that are in my aquarium there that you saw if you were watching any of the live streams last week. Basically, all my mulm has ostracods, seed shrimp. Some of them, which I keep track of, have also Daphnia as well as scuds. Now, scuds can be detrimental to young shrimp and really early fry. Uh, Whereas Daphnias tend to eat like algae from green water and stuff like that, and seed shrimp are totally harmless. But those are things that I don't necessarily culture in high density, but I inoculate every tank from my tanks where I know they're present from looking under the microscope. And I'll take a turkey baster, I'll stir up the substrate, I'll break a couple pieces of plants off, and I'll toss them in. And after a few months, that definitely inoculates or basically, sets it up for success. It's TGOES shrimp, .com. The Garden of Eater shrimp.com. So, yeah, other people use golden pearls, like little teeny synthetic ones. You can get those from like Brine Shrimp Direct and some of your supply houses if you do wholesale, if you have a wholesale license. But you can't. I've noticed that putting little 50 or 0.5 millimeter golden pearls into an aquarium is not enough to get them to spawn, to get most nanofish parents to say, that's food, I can feed my babies, I'm gonna spawn. So let's keep moving here. Do I think every planted tank keeper should keep or should try CO2? Yeah, they should try it if they can, but it's not necessary. I mean, but if you can try it, it's a lot of fun if you have a diversity of plants. If you're not going to deal with fertilizers, an active substrate, and going out and actually getting plants that turn bright colors and things, you're probably not going to get as much enjoyment out of the CO2. So you kind of have to be all in. So I would say yes. Otherwise, just do a DIY free home reactor with like baking soda and gelatin or whatever, and vinegar. That works fine if you're just trying to give a little oomph to your tank. Okay, so let me finish my thought, which is talking about the 5 starting, what do we want to call them? The 5 fundamentals of inducing spawning in fish. So it's that food source and the habitat and the nutrients for the parents. You can also see this as part of this category as fattening up mom. That means she'll produce more eggs generally. And this is at least 2 weeks prior to laying. In some species, it could be like months prior to laying that she needs to be eating this. But with the little ones, they have quick metabolisms, quick lives, and so it generally works out that that covers it. So then the next thing that I think is important is barometric pressure. And that can kind of be tied to temperature, but specifically low pressure. I've seen it in shrimp, and what I'm going to actually tie with low pressure is going to be water depth and water pressure, the amount of water column above the fish and so forth, because there's some fish that I've learned you can spawn them in 2 inches of water in a 5-gallon tank, like just the bottom few inches of water above the substrate, far easier than when you fill the tank. Like they don't want to spawn there. They don't feel secure. So partially what's going on is most of the fish we keep come from areas that flood and have either a wet season or a dry season. They don't have these 4 seasons like a lot of the temperate and, temperate and colder areas do. And so even the subtropics, frequently you'll have a season where it's flooding and flash flooding and all these rainstorms come in, and that brings every little raindrop has usually dust in the center. And in the case of the Amazon, almost every raindrop has a few molecules of phosphorus, which is dust from the Sahara Desert that was kicked up into the atmosphere in hoodoos and sandstorms that happen over there. It comes over, and literally the Amazon then dumps out phosphorus at a rate into the ocean, spent phosphorus basically, at a rate that is only being replaced by like 0.4%, 0.4% I think was the number, a year. And so between the trees and things and it being sequestered in the ground, that means that it's like a perfect balance that the Amazon has evolved to survive off of the phosphates that fall in rain. And so I want you guys to think about too, in these climates where you have fish spawning, like Southeast Asia, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Borneo, Sumatra, all that area, also Papua New Guinea, Northern Australia somewhat. And then you've got Africa, the Congo, the Volta, and somewhat the Rift Lakes, but mostly West Africa and Central Africa. And then in South America, you've got the Orinoco and the Amazon, plus you've got Central America with all the Central American countries like Honduras, Guatemala, Costa Rica, all those. But they get a wet season and a dry season. That whole band around the world, which is where most of our fish in our hobby come from at the moment. And when they evolved, most of these fish evolved one of 2 strategies that it's helpful to understand. The first strategy was that when it rains, when they can sense that it's raining, that means have babies. That means when the water's low, it needs to be low to start with because that dry season has been cooking them for months and it's gone down. They've been relegated to little puddles and streams and lakes that are cut off from the main river that may have overflown 5-6 months ago. Well, then it evaporates off in the heat of these tropical regions, and when it starts to rain again, usually there's a large low pressure front with thunder and lightning and all that, and then within half a day, 12 hours or so, after that barometer drops somewhere between 50 and 120 millibars, I mean, it's like hurricane level drops sometimes, then comes in the wet season, the cold air, and it fills in that low pressure zone. Like if you think of low pressure as literally like a line, average pressure, high pressure, low pressure. The atmosphere does that, and when it's low pressure, everything comes towards it, including moisture. So it comes towards the Amazon when the low pressure moves over it. It starts the rainy season, and so the fish have either developed the plan of, as soon as the barometric pressure starts dropping, that means the weight of water per inch is lifted ever so slightly. But that's what their lateral lines are for. That's what their onodontodes are for. That's what all their little sensory organs are for, is for noticing that. Now, they also, with their gills and their other sensory organs, especially in catfish and things, they're also sensing all sorts of things in the water. Their chemoreceptors, they're able to notice if the salinity's changed, if the amount of, say it's in an area that happens to have magnesium, and they know their puddle is getting smaller, the whole thing evolutionarily, because that magnesium is going up, 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 up in the amount that is parts per million in the water, uh, dissolved. Now, there's also suspended material, and that I'm sure plays a role too, but it's harder to measure that. And you can have a real muddy river that has a low TDS, or a pretty, well, not really. You can have a pretty clear river that has a semi-high TDS, but it's not going to be like astronomic probably. But so in any case, when all that barometric pressure releases, because it's low pressure, the rains will come soon. The fish know this. They start getting excited. If you've ever had a cold front move in, open the windows to your fish room, even if it's cold outside, just for an hour or two. Let the pressure adjust in your room. Probably doesn't even take an hour. Probably takes 20 minutes. And then close the door back up, or close the window back up, and watch what happens. I've gotten cories to spawn when we have rainstorms coming in. Now, were they going to spawn anyways? Probably, because I'm doing a number of things. But it is known, like weather loaches, dojo loaches, and a lot of loaches, my little panda loaches, they will not go crazy. They go crazy when low pressure comes in. So that barometric pressure, as well as the moon, and if they're brackish fish or an intertidal region type fish, that also has a play, because some fish, like gobies in particular, the luminosity is important, and same with a lot of other fish, because they know that if it's dark, that means that they're under the flooded forest. That means the water has dropped. If it's light at the top of the water, that means they're either in an open floodplain or in a field or something where there's a puddle or a lake or pond, or the trees are below them. So at the bottom of the rainforest, about 94 to 96% of the light, the sun's UV energy, is not reaching the forest floor. It's incredible how dark it can be in a forest. And so all of these things factor into when a fish notices it's time. Evolutionarily, it's time. I've got food. The water's about to start coming, and when it comes in those parts of the region, when the water starts falling, it keeps falling for weeks and weeks often. And that means that the water level is going to rise. That means in the next 4 weeks, you got to get babies out. And there's two strategies. One strategy is wait for the dry season. Wait till you're relegated to a puddle like bettas and sometimes half-beaks, some gourami species, and you're relegated to a puddle. Carp sometimes do this. And they say, well, that's good. All the food is concentrated, especially in bigger species of fish that don't eat micro food. All the other fish, they're easy to catch. So in these species that are going to be carnivorous, and also that, especially in labyrinth fish that can breathe air, their strategy is to have babies in the dry season when they're in puddles. And that way, the visibility is bad because the water's murky and all that. The tannins are high, so it's good for the immune systems. And when other fish are struggling and freaking out that they may die, and most fish do die in these floodplain areas, a majority of the neon tetras every year die. They don't make it back into the river. They flip around dead in the forest and fertilize the forest. eventually, you know, it's a graphic scene where you see all the fish that wash in. And so the the uh, the fish have those two strategies, which is either spawn in the pond or spawn when it's raining, and all the floodways are going to open and connect to all the different waterways again. And that will get your babies out of your area. They're not going to be eating your calories, your food, competing for mates with your fellow fish that are your age and your quality. They're going to go elsewhere. They're going to seek out that lower TDS water, and they've evolved over time to spread out with that. And those are being very, very generalistic, two of the biggest strategies that tropical fish have. And if you think like a fish, you can see why food is so important to show you those. You can see why the barometric pressure or the weight of air on the water telling you when it's going to rain is important. Because if you've been keeping them at a level where, and it doesn't matter if it's 10 feet of water or 2 inches of water, the barometric pressure is going to be they're going to be able to sense it independent of how much water's above them, because their lateral lines are able to determine the pressure outside of the water, because that's the weight relative to the water of the water column. So then the other thing is the number 3 on the list, in my opinion, then is chemicals and TDS and the salinity in some species. But basically, when you're going from dry and concentrated puddles that are warm, and all of a sudden you've got all these fish there, some start spawning, they're going to release hormones. And a lot of fish don't spawn until maybe a species that they live in tandem with, or they rely on their fry to eat, or in like the cuckoo catfish, Synodontis, like they rely on these other cichlids, so they don't want their babies just happening anytime. They need to time them with the babies of the other fish, and that's where chemicals are so important. And so you get things like hormone receptors that these fish are extremely in tune to. And some fish, like catfish corridoras, they have over 1,000 little taste buds on the exterior of their body. They're onodontodes also. Some fish sense that as they filter through their gills and so forth. And so I think that is another important aspect of it. Now, the second aspect of it that I see is flow and oxygen, because no matter what the condition is, fish need to breathe. If they're not labyrinth fish or a fish that can gulp air and then absorb it through its stomach, corridoras can do that. They're not labyrinth fish, but they can go to the top, take a gulp of air, and then let it absorb. It's actually through their intestines and lower intestine, their colon, basically. So they're basically breathing in air farts, if you want to think of it that way. But so they are certain fish like salmon, for instance, they need to have flow, and that flow will also be tied with all this other stuff, the barometric pressure, with the food source and the amount of water coming by per minute, per hour, whatever you want to say, gallons per hour or whatnot. But most importantly, when it gets hotter or colder, the total dissolved oxygen becomes affected. And the hotter it is, the more aeration water needs, the more it needs to be churning and flowing to allow the fish to breathe. When it got too hot in last September in Seattle, we had thousands of salmon dying because it was like 62 degrees instead of 54 in the creeks that attach to the Puget Sound. So it's not just tropical fish, but it's a much more pronounced effect in fish that are kind of in these regions where there's not a drought every year. It happens every 10 years or every 20 years. And that's when these events can really impact populations. Now, the other thing, obviously, that we're going to get to, the number one, and these aren't in an order of importance, but is going to be temperature. which is determined by the volume of water, the intensity of light, the length of days on the equator. Those are always the same. And the amount of rain, aeration, all that stuff. So, between all these things, what does that mean? Well, it means that if you have a tropical fish, you either want to put lots of diversity in their water, like in the gouramis and licorice gouramis and little rasboras, oftentimes tetras, oftentimes like hemigramus. Um, you want to allow that to build up a population. You actually can kill the filter a lot of times in those tanks. I don't even put filters in their spawning tanks oftentimes. I just allow them to build up mulm, to build up algae, and green water is generally better than filamentous algae for small fish. And that's just because they can eat the single cells easily, and they're full of the chlorophyll and the other nutrients that they are going to eat in there that are being processed the same as a plant. So I like to look under the microscope at my water, and if it's looking green or brown, I'll look under the microscope. If I don't see little single cell algae floating around, then I know maybe it's just tannins. And I think tannins go into the chemical nature again. So some fish need to know that the pH has changed, and that's the chemistry with the tannins and the conductivity of the water, all of that stuff. The ammonia levels, that how much decomposition of organic matter is there food for the food of the babies. And all of this has fed into evolutionary sensors that they may not cognitively know, but their body tells them, okay, there's green water, there's mulm. That means that there's going to be things that like Daphnia that eat green water. My babies are going to need that in 2 weeks. Lots of that around. There's paramecium for the first week after their yolk sac's gone. And we're good to go as far as food. So then they'll say, okay, check, that's off the list. The food's taken care of. The mother, is she nourished? Does she have parasites and things like that? So she needs to be nourished, given enough protein to grow those eggs inside of her for a week or two. Separating the parents can be done too. That could be a number 6 on your list if you want. It doesn't necessarily help in all fish, but in most fish, it seems to, they see each other and they're like, yeah, let's get it on. And if nothing else, it prevents the females from scattering in a community tank, and then you lose the eggs because they either get eaten or the babies hatch and then they get eaten. So you've got the food ready. You've prepped the female by feeding her lots of protein. In the case of plecos, though, for instance, or some cichlids, you need to bulk up the males because they'll sit on them. Or in the case of beta macrostoma, it's better to have 2 males per female because the female can actually lay more teeny tiny eggs because they grow out off a yolk sac and off of mucus in the mouth of the father betta, and he holds them in his mouth. And this is true with a lot of cichlids too, and some gouramis too, is they hold them in their mouth, and so the males are not going to open their mouth to eat because they might swallow their babies. And sometimes they're not good at this at first, and they'll mess up, and they'll spit out some babies and then take a bite of food and then eat some babies. It can take a few times. But what's so critical there is that they have the fat and the protein supplies that they need to withstand. In some species, it's a month. In others, it's a few weeks. And in most, it's just a few days. But that they have that there. So the nutrition, the diversity of nutrition and the food. Then we look at the barometric pressure and temperature change happen at the same time oftentimes. So generally in your tank, what you're going to do is you're going to let the water evaporate for a week or two. Maybe even take out a cup every day, and so that the water goes down a 1/4 inch or whatever, until you're down to maybe 3 or 4 inches of water in some species. And then with this, in some places, like with hill stream species, usually as the water goes down, you actually want to increase the flow. But you need to give them resting spots because it's an aquarium and they'd have resting spots in the wild. but the flow is going to be reduced in flooded forest species, lakes and pond species and things like that. So you kind of need to know the species, but that's where flow comes in again, because in some cases, as the water is getting lower, the flow gets more extreme. Other cases, when it's just pouring rain, that's when the flow is the most extreme. But generally, the flow, as everything floods, the flow decreases because everything's flooded. And this is when your fish will then, they'll get the signals and they'll make the signals. If they've had the diet that they can then color up with the anthocyanins, the athataskins, omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids, then they have everything in them needed to put on that sexy, pretty, vibrant dance, as well as they need to have a lot of guanine and guarine made in their system. So a lot of proteins, and again, another fatty acid helps with that. But that gives them their iridophoric, or the shimmer, the fish scale shimmer. And those are little crystals in their cells, in their flesh or on their scales. And so that makes them look their best and they're ready. And then if it's a species that lays in low pH waters and things, then there tend to be the ones that are going to be laying in the drier season. So after the leaves and things have been knocked off trees, after the water's started to settle, and it's kind of in stagnant ponds. So you're going to want to start putting tannins in. That's going to release other chemicals. And then oftentimes what I do is, if I'm spawning angelfish or crebensis, for instance, I'll also put corydoras in there. And when whatever day it is that one of them spawns, it's very frequent that the other group of fish, different species, will then spawn too. And I think that's the estrogen, the hormones, the testosterone, progesterone, and human growth hormone, or fish growth hormone. So you're getting all those things, plus you're getting all sorts of other chemical senses that fish put out that are kind of aphrodisiacs, that we know as pheromones, that humans also produce, or body odor, as well as the microbacteria and the slime coat on them. They have a BO, so to speak. According to recent research, they have slime coats that change with the season, and oftentimes maybe that temperature change and that pH change and the presence of magnesium or iron causes a new bacteria to form on their surface, and that gives them that lets their mates know, oh, they're healthy, they're bright and colorful, their slime coat's good. And they've got, a thick slime coat, which is kind of their immune system, like our skin is part of ours. And then, other than that, when you start getting the water either rising or falling, depending on the species, you drop that water. If you're dropping the water, generally, you're going to be warming it to a few degrees. If you've already dropped it for a few weeks and got their food ready and fattened them up, then what you're going to do is simulate the wet season, and what you're going to do is put in water that's, say, 10 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 or 4 Celsius colder than the tank is, and you've slowly turned up the heat on the tank for those 2 weeks, maybe a degree to 3 degrees Celsius, maybe up to 6 to 10, depending on the species, Celsius or Fahrenheit, not Celsius. So, maybe usually you keep the fish at 72. When you put them in this tank, when you're trying to mimic the dry season for a few weeks, maybe you crank it to 80 or 82 slowly, jumping a degree every 3 or 4 days or every 2 or 3 days. Then when you do the water change, you're going to use water that's very low in total dissolved solids, because that's what rainwater is usually like. And you're going to add that to the mix. And you're going to fill up also the water in there so they can feel that pressure building. Whereas if you're trying to get killifish to spawn or labyrinth fish, it's a lot trickier, because you need to wait the time of evaporation. Even if you're helping it, there's only so fast that happens. It's a gradual process and a gradual metamorphosis of them getting ready for that spawning cycle. And lastly, then you've got you got that temperature tied in that I was talking about, and the flow. If it's a corridor or something, that's when you would let the water slowly go down on the tank for a couple weeks, feed them high protein, feed them blood worms and black worms. Maybe you get the water down to 5 or 6 inches on some sand with a piece of slate in there or something, and you don't have any power heads or anything. Maybe it's just a hang on the back filter that brings them more aeration and mimics the rain falling, because the rain is going to break the surface tension and aerate the heck out of these ponds and puddles. But maybe you put a little power head in there, or a little fountain, a little stream of water that arcs into the tank. And those are going to be, in my opinion, your fundamentals of spawning. And you need to do your research and learn what time of year that fish spawns, what it eats, and how it spawns. Is it a cave spawner? Is it what is it? So that is what I really wanted to talk about today, and I got it done within the first hour, basically. Why does it always fog up like this? So that is really what I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry that I didn't read any of your comments, but I wanted to spit all of that out like a motherfish. KJE Aquatics, what is going on? Lori, how's it going? Good to see you. Tri-City Aquatics, good to see you. 186 Element, Paul McCarthy, so good to see you. And let's see, Haiti Oci or Oci. Oasi. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I know I am. Eurogupper. And so yes. Also, freshwater ichthyology said something very interesting, which is that eggs are far more costly than sperm to develop. Video demonetized. But yeah, it takes way more protein to pack all the enzymes and protein and fats that are in the yolk, let alone the spinal cord and the eyes and the basic stem cells of a fetal or larval fish. That takes a lot of energy, and that's why you really need to fatten up the females in some species. So it's important to know whether the male or female needs to be fattened. If it's a species where the father guards and won't eat during that period, that's important to know, because he won't eat for a month sometimes, depending on the species. I'm sure stress and cortisol levels are another major factor you could throw in there, but I'm throwing that in as chemotropic or chemo or rather chemical signals. So I'm still doing some tests with the microscope, and I want to scrape all this water splashy stuff. I'm very curious what will be in there, because I have very low TDS water. Like, this tank sits around 140. So why is there so much staining going on there? So that will be examined under the microscope, either during the late night or during a video if it's of interest. But yeah, the Mayaka's looking really nice too. And also the lovely Aponogeton crispus. I'm hoping, it's looking like it may send up a new flower sooner or later. So yet again, the light is important, and the light, the tide, the pressure, all that. As long as flow is high, I need to move some of the debris out from the base, because a lot of times plants get crowded and then they can't absorb nutrients. Well, the light is important because this thing needs to go into its flowering stage. And so when it goes into its flowering stage, it gets much more purple, and it thinks it's kind of the end of the season, or rather, the light is more oblique of an angle and out longer, but at a more oblique angle for the morning and the evening. So yeah, also I kind of want to do a dry cycle, or a dry season mimic on this, so I can breed these little cories. They should be ready to spawn soon, so I want to fatten them up. If you guys have any questions, David Crane, hello, how's it going? Please drop those. I'm sure I missed anything you guys said while I was explaining that. I wanted to get through it because I said I was going to talk about the 5 fundamental principles of inducing spawning behavior or live bearer birth, whatever you want to call it, babies being born. Now, this tank is overgrown. It's overgrown again. I kind of want to reset it. It's just got some random live bearers in it, some habrosis, and then it's got 3 plecos growing out in it that are getting yay big. But it's got white cloud minnows and stuff in there and meteor minnows, so those are going to be, you know, out in the pond soon, hopefully. Josh Koch says, or Coke says, I just had a huge Venezuelan Cory spawn. Right on. Glad to hear it. They're pretty easy. I mean, they're the Aeneas species also, and they're pretty easy, but we love them, don't we? I mean, they're beautiful fish. Oh, I haven't even turned these lights on yet today. Let's take a look. It's in a book. Reading Rainbow. Something up in the sky. Is it rainbow up in the sky? Take a look. It's in a book. Reading frickin' Rainbow. Alright. Come on, Alex. Plug in. Look at this. This is so hard. There we go. One-handed. So we've got the Medaka. The Medaka rice fish doing their thing. In with some crazy little guppies doing their thing. I don't know where I'm going with this project. It's crazy. Oh, your Corridor eggs hatch. Do I still need methylene blue? No, in fact, if you keep using methylene blue, you will kill them eventually if it's in any substantial amount. Yeah, knock that off once they hatch. They'll be fine. What, in your opinion, is the hardest but possible fish to spawn? The panda loach. Panda loach, hands down. Or maybe the red skirt, or maybe the bleeding heart tetra. That's another one. I would say those. Those are the kinds that we have like 2 or 3 reports of anybody spawning more than just a couple one-offs of them. Also, your Stiphodons or Styphodons, they are... Oh, no. Why did you get sick? Oh, we gotta... What happened, lady? I just checked on you. Ugh. So, these are my Medaka, and... You know, I fed them... Oh, look at all the eggs on this one. I wonder what happened, if they were fighting or what. That one has a good amount of eggs on it right now. I don't know why these Medaka are so confused. Medaka are supposed to usually spawn in the morning or sometimes at night. They're not supposed to spawn at 4 to 6 p.m. Crazy fish. But, nevertheless... Hey, I know you're brushing off your eggs. She says, don't take my eggs. It's all I have. You have a nice red head, too. I've been saving the ones from the females with the best red marking on their head or orange marking on their head in a tank that's separate from the other ones. Like these ones that just have like a random orange spot and supposedly the genes. Supposedly. But we've got a lot of baby rice fish in here now. I don't know if you guys can make out how many are in here. There's at least 60 though. Now in here at different levels. They're just all over the place. So that's good news. I'm simulating again another dry spell. I keep doing it over and over and over for these silly fish to spawn, and they'll color up, they'll dance. I'm wondering if she's infertile or something, or he is, because they haven't had eggs, or at least the eggs haven't survived. If they do have them, they're in the hut and they haven't survived. But every time I do that, the female Stiphodons get friggin' huge and pregnant, and I feel so bad for them because they spawn into the water and you see the little murky cloud of little babies coming out, and then the milt from the male, and the males get all colorful and show off, and then nothing. Then they die. That's the end of it. So that's a super bummer. But instead of raising the temperature for them, I'm actually dropping it, just because they're a West African cichlid and nothing has worked so far. This is the Enigmatochromius leuconzi. Definitely one of my favorites. And again, pardon the not cleaning of the glass. That's what was scraped. You can see where it's been scraped on this half and not this half at all. That's the way pretty much all the tanks are right now because of the microscope slide and looking at microscope stuff. Basically, I'm trying to analyze what's in the diatom algae, versus what's in the filamentous algae, that kind of thing. This guy's hungry too. Where did I put my? Hold on, guys. We need to find my. Hi, bunny. Oh, you don't want to be filmed, do you? Where did I put my pipette? I've got a little pipette. Sorry, guys. You know, when nature calls, it calls. You know what's crazy, though? Let's see if she does this tonight. Oh, no, Alex, you are a dummy. You spilled that, but she's still okay and still has water even? Crazy. Now the water's in the pipette. But some of these rice fish are smart enough now. They know that I'm coming to collect. They know I want my money. I want my eggs. And they'll actually roll over on their side and just give up the eggs. I'll clean that up later. Let's get her some more water, though. I feel bad for her. Have some more water. And also the eggs will float. Alright. Also, the plants are doing really well. Let's see if my little jar aquarium has settled. I haven't put plants in it really yet. I only put a couple, but this is my little Stonehenge / Arches National Park jar. It's probably half a gallon of fluid. I might just put some baby rice fish in there, or a shrimp or something, but I think I'd feel way too bad to put fish in there. So, alright, sorry about all the moving, guys. I just need to get the rice fish eggs, or they will deposit them and then eat them ruthlessly. Alright. Eggs. Party time. Party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. Alright, she can go back now. You know, my black Medacas, though, they haven't spawned at all. I haven't seen them with eggs ever. And I've been checking hourly, basically, for weeks. Not hourly for weeks, but I mean off and on. I check every few hours, different times of the day, and no one's ever got eggs. I don't know what's going on. And I'm really also stumped as to why that one rice fish was dead at the bottom here. Odd. Very odd. I hate that when you don't know what killed a fish. I mean, I'm already assuming things, but... Oh, also, guys, they always hide in the back, but we've got rainbow shiners that are finally growing up. They're at about 1.5 inches finally now. And we've also got more CPD babies that hatched not that long ago. But they're going for $10 a piece at the local pet store at like Aquarium Co-op and stuff. So you know, you can get about $2.50 for them from there, or maybe $3 from another store. So it's worthwhile spawning, in my opinion, at the moment. Also, we have some rice fish that were hitchhikers. They must have gotten in here accidentally. I'll look at the comments in a moment. I was just trying to find something to look at now that we did that. Let's see here. Pandagars? I've definitely spawned Pandagars before. Panda loaches are very hard though. Sandio, does fry bit like soft or frog bit, I'm guessing, or hard water? Also, do they need a lot of light? Thanks, I have very hard water. Frog bit usually is okay. It doesn't like extremely hard water usually. I mean, it is an Amazonian plant, so it's not like it's going to want African level water or some Florida or Kentucky water necessarily, but it should be okay in moderate. Soft water, it tends to do a little bit better in my experience, but I don't know for sure if there's strains that do well in hard water too. Like water hyacinth does fine in hard water. What is your opinion on inbreeding? I went to buy 2 plecos, a male and a female, and the breeder told me that I shouldn't inbreed them and wouldn't sell them to you. That's silly. I mean, granted, it's better to not breed siblings, but yeah, it is. That's silly. There's been a lot of research done on fish, specifically a lot of live bearers and stuff too, and they've found that they actually will, I mean, they will, after breeding with their own sibling, within several generations, they will try to diversify as much as possible. And even though orange in many live bear species is like a sign that they have apotaskin and carotenoid access, which means they're healthy. Even when they see that they're colorful and they have a long stamina and they're hardy, they actually are like, no, I'd rather pass if it's a sibling or a child. Now that being said, if there's no other choices, live bears will have babies with anything that is around, and they're going to have babies basically no matter what. But plecos, you know, I've never really seen a huge detriment of line breeding plecos. I'm sure there are detrimental things, but that's really how people get things like long fins and stuff, is probably that inbreeding. So that's kind of a stupid rule at the store. I mean, ideally in a perfect world you wouldn't do that, but I mean, if you put them in the same tank, grow them out in the same tank, sibling fish have babies all the time, just because they do. I would try add something like 20 plus root tabs and loads of alder cones 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 into the Enigmatochromis to get the water okay. It might work. Hey, that's a good idea, Mick. I'll give that a go. Hey, Ginger Graves, what's going on, Ginger? So good to see you. Who is selling those water-holding nets? Well, that would be Aquatic Arts. And now, right now, they ship all of their dry goods and non-living things. They are shipping free. So you can get free shipping on those. It has to be separate from living things. And they're called vinyl nets, and they're handmade in, I think, Vietnam or Taiwan. They're 15 or 20 bucks, but I've had that one for 3 or 4 years, and the new ones are clear, so you can actually see through them. Let me show you what they look like, because I swear by these things. I love these things. But guys, I gotta sign off pretty soon here. I think Alyssa will be coming by, but also my wife is headed out. I want to say goodbye to her before she goes out to a concert. This net here, this is awesome. It doesn't scare fish much at all either, because this is a see-through underwater. This isn't so foggy looking. It looks more see-through. And I can catch a lot of fish that are hard to catch normally, like little Stiphodons or, you know, whatever I'm trying to get in that net very easily. You can see the male Stiphodons are showing off for the females also right now and fighting each other. They're kind of nipping at each other, and they never do any damage. But they're showing off their neon colors and chasing around the females and doing their thing, the males. Ah, what just happened? Why did it flip around? But check out the lady. She's got such a big belly. And other lady has an even bigger belly of eggs. You can she's bulging full of eggs. I just feel so bad. I need to find someone with a brackish or saltwater tank. Alright guys, so let's see here. Vinyl net, yeah. Also, and you can get 15% off anything at Aquatic Arts. There's new codes right now, which are Secret 10 and Secret 15. You can use Secret 15 once, Secret 10 as many times as you want. Guys, I'm going to sign off now because my wife is heading out to a concert to have fun without me. Actually, I said I didn't want to go. But thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for the super chats and for all the fun discussions and hanging out. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Maybe even we'll do a late night chat over the weekend for all you Europeans, Asians, and Australasians. That's been kind of fun at night. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Thank you so much for the support, for the memberships, and for just being you guys. Thank you. And we hit 30,000. Woo! All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Wife's literally leaving. I want to give her a kiss goodbye. Bye, guys.